Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I hope you've been practicing everything we've learned so far. In our previous lessons, we've learned how to write Python programs, store information using variables, ask users for input, and convert different data types using functions like int, int, and float. At this point, our programs are becoming much more interactive. For example, we can ask the user for their age and their name, and we can even ask them to enter numbers, but there's still something very important that is missing. Imagine creating a calculator, but that program won't be very useful, would it? Because computers need a way to perform the arithmetic operations, and that's exactly what today we are going to learn about. Learn about operators. Operators are one of the most important building blocks of programming because they allow our programs to perform calculations, compare values, update information, and eventually make decisions. By the end of this lesson, you'll be able to build your own calculator and create simple grading programs. So let's get started. So before we actually begin to write any code, first let's understand what an operator actually is. An operator is simply a symbol that tells Python to perform a particular operation. So you've actually been using operators for most of your life without thinking of them. When you solve a maths problem like 8 plus 4, or well, like 5 plus 3 is equals to 8. The plus sign tells you to add those numbers. And if you write a minus sign, it indicates that subtraction needs to occur. Python provides many operators that tell the computer what to do with our data. Some operators perform mathematical calculations, some compare values, some update the existing variables, and others help us combine different conditions. Throughout this lesson, we'll explore each category one step at a time. So Python has several different kinds of operators. For beginners, the five most important categories are arithmetic operators, assignment operators, comparison, logical, and the operator precedence. Don't worry, some of these names don't sound familiar to you. By the end of today's lesson, each one will make perfect sense. We'll begin with the simplest category, that is the arithmetic operators. If you've ever used a calculator, you're already familiar with most of them. So arithmetic operators perform mathematical calculations. Python supports the following arithmetic operators: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, floor division, modulus, and exponent. At first glance, most of these look familiar. However, there are a few operators like the percent sign, that is the modulus, and the double slash, that is the floor division, that may look completely new to you. So we'll learn each one individually. So let's go ahead and open up a VS Code. I'll just create a new file and I'll call it operators.py. Also, don't forget to go ahead and save it using Control S. So now type the following. I'll type num1 is equal to, say, 12, enter. Num2 is equal to 8, enter. So now let's add these two using our print statement. Print num1 plus num2. Now let's go ahead, first save the program and run it. And there we go, it works. Now as you can see, we assigned each variable num1 and num2 with a value 12 and 8. And we use the addition operator to add these two together and display it using the print statement. Simple enough. Now let's move on to subtraction. Now I'll just quickly go through the most common operators. So simply I'm going to now remove the addition sign with the subtraction and just go ahead and save the file. And now I will run it. And there you go. It works. And now as for multiplication, we use asterisks. So I'll just go ahead and remove the minus, use the asterisk, and go ahead and save it. And now let's run it again. And there you go. It works. It is the same with division. We just use a slash. So I'm going to skip over and let's learn about floor division, which is used by using two slashes. So what the flow division does. So what flow division does is that it always returns the whole number part of the answer. So if you were to divide, say, 7 divided by 2, your answer should be 3.5. But if I go ahead and write the code now, but instead of using a single slash, I use two slashes, so now it will perform a flow division instead of a simple division. So I'll just quickly change these variables, and then I'll make this 7, and let's go, and now I'll use double slash instead of a single one. Go ahead and save it, and let's run the file. And as you can see that instead of me getting 3.5 as the answer, I'm getting 3. So the next operator that we are going to discuss is the modulus operator, which is denoted by using the percent sign. Instead of giving us the answer to a division problem, it gives us the remainder. So let's see this with an example. So I'll replace the num1 with 20, and I'll replace the num1 with 20, and I'll replace the num2 with 5. Let's go ahead and replace these with the percent sign and save the program and run it. And there we go, 20, and there we go, 20% 5 gives us 0, because the remainder of the division of 20 divided by 5, we get 0, because the remainder of 20 divided by 5 is 0. The final arithmetic operator that we'll learn today is the exponent operator. To display a number being raised to some other power, in Python we'll use two asterisks. So simply I will now go ahead and just remove all of this, and I'll simply write a simple print statement inside of which I will write 2 double asterisks to the power 3, save this, and let's run it. The answer should be 8. And as you can see, we get the answer 8. So let's combine everything we've learned so far and build a first calculator. So I'll ask the user for 2 integers so that we can perform operations on them. So I'll just name it anything. Num1 is equal to int input, and inside of input I'll write a simple message that enter a number and colon, and then I will make another variable. Num2 is equal to int input, and quotation marks, enter the second number. And I'll go ahead and write 4 print statements, and in each one we'll perform a different arithmetic operation. So I've just written 4 print statements, so I'll just simply go ahead and reference the first 2 variables and add them together, num1 plus num2. Similarly, I'll subtract them, num1 minus num2. Num1 multiplied by num2 and num1 slash num2. Go ahead and save the file, and let's run the program. As you can see, it's asking me for input. I'll type first 20 and then 5. So the answer should be, the first one should be 25, the second one should be 15, the third one should be 20 multiplied by 5, that is, 100, and the last one should be 4. So let's see if it works. And there we go, and it works. This small calculator uses concepts from the several previous lessons: variables, user input, arithmetic operators, and the print function. Programming is just all about combining the simple building blocks to create more useful programs. So in the previous section, we learned about arithmetic operators and used them to build a first simple calculator. We also discovered that the Python can add, subtract, multiply, divide, and find remainders, and even calculate powers. But imagine if you are building a real application. Suppose you are making a game where the players' scores keep increasing, or a banking app where the account balance changes after every transaction. Would we keep writing long calculations over and over? No, so thankfully Python has given us a much shorter and cleaner way to update those variables, and these are called assignment operators. Before we learn the shortcuts, let's quickly review something that you've already used many times. Look at the first line. That is, score is equal to 10. We've seen this before. The equal sign is called the assignment operator, and it doesn't mean equals in the mathematical sense. Instead, it means take the value on the right and store it inside the variable on the left. So this line tells Python that create a variable score and then store the value 10 inside of it. Now let's imagine the player earns 5 more points. How should we update the score? So one way to write it would be to simply write it like the second line, that is, score is equal to score plus 5. So let's go ahead and run this program and see what our answer would be. So notice the first value that is stored inside of score is 10. So after adding 5 to the score, we should get 15. And as you can see, the answer is 15. The second way that Python provides us is a very short way to write it. Instead of writing score is equal to score plus 5, we can simply write score plus equal to 5, just as I've written in the comment. These two lines mean exactly the same. Let's test it. So I'll quickly just uncomment the third line and I'll remove the second one to show you a comparison. So this one should also give me the same result. So I'll quickly go ahead and save it and I'll try to run it now. And we get the answer 15. The result is identical. The only difference is that our code is much shorter and easier to read. Still, it is up to you if you want to use the first method or the shorter version of it. Now let's learn the opposite. Similarly, we can also use subtraction if we want to subtract something from a variable we've already created. So instead of adding plus 5, let's try minus 5. So I'll just quickly run this now, and you can see that now it has subtracted 5 from our value. Now, similarly, the second way we can also shorten this by just simply uncommenting the third line, and I'll show you that the answer remains the same. So now I'll just save it and quickly run it again, and as you can see, the answer is still the same. Just like this, if we want to multiply something, we just have to replace the minus with the asterisk. Now, if I want to instead multiply something, I'll just simply remove the current place of the operator and replace it with the asterisk. The same is to be done with division. Instead, I'll just use a slash. A very common mistake that many beginners would do is instead of writing plus equal is that they will write equals plus. So notice that we have to use the operator on the left side instead of the right hand. So far in this lesson, we've learned how to perform mathematical calculations using arithmetic operators, how to update variables using assignment operators. Those skills allow our programs to work with numbers, but now we will teach our programs how to compare values. Imagine that you are creating a school grading system. The program needs to answer questions like, is the student's mark greater than 50? Is the student's age equal to 18? Is the password correct? Is one product cheaper than the other? So these are not mathematical calculations anymore, they are comparisons. And every comparison has only one of two possible answers, true or false. So let's learn how Python does this. So comparison operators compare two values. Instead of giving us another number, they produce a Boolean value. A Boolean can only be true or false. Think of comparison operators as asking Python a question. For example, is 10 greater than 5? Python will answer true, or is 4 greater than 12? Python will answer false. These answers will become extremely important later when we start writing if and else statements. So let's start with the most common comparison operator. So notice Python will use two consecutive equal signs to denote the comparison between two numbers. For example, in this program, I've taken num1 to be 5, and I've taken another variable num2, and I've also made it equal to 5. Now, if I go ahead and print the comparison between these two variables using the double equal sign, let's see what the program prints out. And there we go. As you can see, the program has printed true. Notice that in this case, we have used two equal signs and we are asking a completely different question. We are asking that if num1 is equal to num2 or not. In this case, both being 5, it comes out to be true. Sometimes we want to check whether the two values are different, rather than comparing if the two values are the same. We do that by using exclamation equal to par, and we read it as not equal to. Let's write an example to explain this even better. So instead of double equal to sign, what I'll write is I'll first remove the first equal to and replace it with the exclamation mark. So I've replaced it with exclamation mark. Now let's go ahead and save this and run this. So the answer now comes out to be false. That is, we were asking the question, is num1 not equal to num2? And the answer is false. That is, it is false that but they are different. So we are essentially asking that is 5 not equal to 5, which is false. So the output is false. Now let's take another example. I'll replace num1 with 8. Replace it with 8 and then save the program. And then save the program and let's run this. And as you can see, it is true. It is true that 8 is not equal to 5. The next comparison operator we'll be using is the greater than. It checks whether one value is larger than the other. So I'll simply remove this and then use the greater than comparison operator. I'll save this and let's run this. So what we are essentially asking is 8 greater than 5? Which it in fact is, so the answer should be true. And as you can see, the answer is true. The opposite of this operator would be the less than operator, in which we will be asking the opposite question, that is 8 less than 5, which is false. So I'll just replace this with the less than, and I'll just save the program and run it again. And the answer comes out to be false. Sometimes we don't want to know whether something is strictly greater. We want to allow equality as well. That is where the greater than or equal to sign comes in. For example, a student passes if they score 50 or more. Notice the words or more. That means the student passes with 50, 51, and 75. All of these should be accepted. That's where the greater than or equal to operator comes in. So I'll simply replace this with greater than or equal to. So, and I'll go ahead and save this. And also, just to show you how this works, I'll change the values. Let's make this 50 and let's make this 50 as well. I'll save this and let's run this. So the answer is again true. So let's change it up a bit. And instead of it being 50, I'll write 70. So I'll save this and now let's run the program once again. And as you can see, it is true yet again because we were using the greater than or equal to operator. Similarly, there is also a less than equal to operator in which we will just replace the greater sign with the less sign. So let's replace this with the less sign. Let's save this and let's run it again. So this prints out false because 70 is not less than or even equal to 50. So let's build a simple program in which the user inputs a mark. So let's build a program in which we ask the user for some number and then we can assign some grade to it or even say if they pass or fail. So I'll just write marks is equal to int input, enter your marks. And after this, I will simply write marks greater than or equal to 50. Let's see if he passed or not. So let's save this and let's run this program. Now I'll input a number 75 and hit enter. And as you can see, it is true that my marks are greater than the marks I've set in the program. So in the previous section, we learned how to compare the values using comparison operators. We discovered that comparisons always produce one of two answers that was either true or false. But real life situations often involve more than one condition. So imagine you log into a website and the website doesn't just check whether your username is correct. It also checks whether your password is also correct. Both the conditions must be true before you're allowed to log in. Similarly, imagine when you apply for a driver's license, you might need to be at least 18 and have passed a driving test. So today we are going to learn how Python combines multiple conditions using logical operators. So logical operators allow us to combine or modify Boolean values. Remember that Boolean values are simply true or false. So let's begin with the AND operator. The word AND means exactly what it means in English. Both conditions must be true. Imagine you're entering an examination hall and the rules say that you must bring your admit card as well as your school ID. Now, if you forget either one, you cannot enter. Both conditions must be satisfied. So let's write a simple example. So I'll just simply type true and true. These two trues here signify two different statements whose eventual outputs were true. So to test AND, our output should be true, as both of the other two statements' answers were also true. So I'll just save this and run it. So as you can see, the output comes out to be true. So let's build a practical example. So suppose a person must be 18 years old and have an ID card. So I'll simply first write one variable that is age equals 20 and another variable to hold the ID that is has_ID equals true. And I will go ahead and print out the age greater than equal to 18 and has ID. So the age that we have just defined is 18 and we also have the ID, so the output should be true. So there we go, we got our output as true. Now let's learn about the OR operator. Unlike AND, the OR operator is much more flexible. It asks that at least one condition is true. Imagine you're paying for groceries and the shop accepts cash and credit card. You don't need both. Either one is enough. Imagine a student can enter the computer lab if today is Saturday or Sunday. So let's run this program and we should get true, because even if it is not Sunday, it is Saturday. And as you can see, I just got true. The final logical operator is not. Unlike AND OR, it doesn't combine two conditions. Instead, it simply reverses a Boolean value. Think of it as switching a light switch. If something is true, not will make it false. If something is false, not makes it true. So let's test it with a simple print statement. So not true should be false. So let's run the program, and as you can see, the answer is false. Notice what the not has done. It has reversed whatever the Boolean value there was. Now let's discuss something very important. Sometimes Python encounters several operators in one expression. Which one should it evaluate first? This is called the operator precedence. It is similar to the mathematical concepts we've learned in our schools. For example, we've used like DMAS, where division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction. Just like mathematics follows the order of operations, Python can also follow certain rules. Consider the example that I've just taken, that is 5 plus 3 multiplied by 2. Before running it, think about the answer. Python follows the mathematical order of operations. Multiplication happens before addition. So Python will first calculate 3 multiplied by 2 is equal to 6 and then add 6 with 5. That is the answer, should be 11. So as you can see, the answer is 11. If we want the addition to happen first, we can use parentheses like we also do in our regular maths. So as you can see, I just added parentheses to 5 plus 3. Now Python will give precedence to that part of the calculation first, and only after that will it multiply 2. So the answer should be 16. And yes, the answer is 16. So in the final section of the lesson, I will be giving you an assignment. That is for you to build an even or odd checker. Now notice, in this program you will have to use if and else, but I'd like you to experiment it on your own, even though we will be learning more about if and else in our upcoming lesson. Thank you for watching.